And so he ends this chapter. He calls this section Saving Hume. He says, someone of a skeptical bent, then, has good reason to doubt that evolution could underwrite the reliability of sense perception and reason. That's what he's been picking on here the last couple of chapters, right? To put it differently, it's reasonable to think that Darwin provided Hume with only minimal help, right? So, kind of so sad, too bad. To Hume, we may have an explanation, but it's just it's a minimal help with regard to Hume's skepticism.
But people seem to want to grab onto it for all it's worth, because that seems to be the only other explanation.
Right. And that's the point he makes. He says, and yet the question of cognitive reliability has been quietly swept under the rug, right? Most naturalists, he says, for all their skeptical drum beatings, aren't interested in the issue of cognitive reliability, right? They're interested in something else. We'd have to, we would have thought that hard-nosed skepticism would be itching to follow reason along any path, right? And this particular path seems to lead us to the realization that we have no independent reason to believe reason other than the fact that we already do, and that we couldn't help it in any sense, right? So he quips, maybe possession is 9/10 of the law, right? We already have it, so we might as well own it, right?
Or we think we have it.
Yeah. Right. Perhaps naturalists see skepticism about our cognitive faculties as, maybe childish, he says, right? And perhaps that's the case, he wants to say. But in any case, in what follows, he tells us he wants to simply assume that our intellectual instruments then have impeccable credibility. So notice, he's giving over the arguments one at a time. He's just saying, okay, there's a problem here, but let's just assume it's okay. Well, even with evolution, let's assume it's okay, that life began from some kind of way, and it evolved to where it is today. We still have problems, right, with regard to our beliefs and whether or not they're true, even if because evolution tells us they're only for survival.
Right.
And if that's the case, then they don't need to be beliefs. We don't need to have beliefs for survival, and we certainly don't need true beliefs for survival. But let's assume that we have them. What about these giant beliefs that we get, these complicated beliefs, rather, that we get from science? Whoa, now we're going way beyond the pale. So we need to make sure that we follow skepticism everywhere it leads if we're going to be consistent skeptics. Right. We don't just say, but again, he's willing to say, okay, but let's just grant that we do have these true beliefs. Now where do we go from here? So that's what he wants to pursue in the next chapter with regard to science.